Yeah, as Scott said, it's pretty crazy that we're going to start voting here next week. I find it very disconcerting to say the least, and it's even more disconcerting that really we didn't get a chance to meet or know any of our candidates. So it's kind of nice that we get this opportunity to do this. And to be honest, with the 1, 2, 9 candidates we're going to talk to, it's almost 9 hours of conversation. There's no way we would have had that at one of the meetings. So I don't know. We'll see how it turns out at the end of the day, how everybody likes it as to what we're going to be doing in the next as we roll forward to November. And God help us, we may be not locked down until August. Who knows? But before we begin, is we kind of chit chat. I'll ask Lori 4 questions. She got these mailed to her ahead of time. As I said before, none of us are professional politicians. We're not going to get up on the fly and answer questions for 40 minutes just without any kind of background knowledge. That's kind of awkward to do to people, and it's really uncomfortable to watch them stumble. You're not really gaining anything. This isn't a catch you moment. This isn't a gotcha moment. It's more of a meet with our candidates, see what they got to say, and go from there. So Lori, she does have, as I said, she was my example. She's our Board of Supervisors for Ward 3 currently, and she does have a website, LoriBagwell.com, where you can find out more information for her. But Lori, if you could talk about yourself for a few minutes.
Sure. So first off, I want to thank the Republican Party for giving us this opportunity to have a public forum to be able to reach the voters. Couldn't do it without you. It's just it's so strange not to be able to walk and knock on doors and just talk to people. So again, thank you so very much. And then I want to also thank all of the people on the call tonight, because it shows me your engagement and that you really want to learn about the candidates. And it is taking time out of your schedule. And so I just want to give a big shout out back to all of you. A little bit about myself. I've lived in Carson City since 1966. But no, I was not born here. Can't make that claim. I was 4 years old. I'm married for 30 years, just had our anniversary this week. I have a son that graduated from the same high school I did, Carson High. He lives in Reno and he's a CPA. I started working at the age of 14. I'm not sure how many of you might remember across from the Ormsby House, there was an ice cream shop that was called Swenson's Ice Cream Parlor. And I have to say, I think I was so fortunate to have an employer that instilled in me work ethic. And that he did that at the age of 14 to teach me that you had to earn every dollar that you got. There's no freebies. And so I really credit a lot of my work ethic to a man named Rodney Vieira. So I just want to say, teaching your children when they're young is a good idea because it instills work ethic for the future. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration. I worked for the state of Nevada for 26 years with increasing levels of responsibility. Something unique about me while I worked for this state is I worked for 3 different governors. So for Bob Miller, Jim Gibbons, and Kenny Gwinn. And each of those governors during their term had special projects or needs that they needed to address. And I don't know if it's fortunate. I think for my long-term goals and growth and learning, it definitely was. But whenever there was a budget crises or an issue or something of that nature that needed to be addressed, I always was assigned to special projects. And so when people laugh and tell you that I'm the budget guru, it's because I have, 25 years now of really learning how to fine tune a budget. You can ask any of the city staff, I am the nitpicky one about every single dollar. I worked for the state budget office. I managed a $330 million state budget for the Department of Corrections, which is 3 times the size of the Carson City budget. I've negotiated and managed hundreds of simple to complex contracts. I've successfully wrote and passed legislation, both for the Association of Counties and later as a state employee. So I am very prepared to represent Carson City at the Nevada legislature. Upon retiring from state service, my husband and I opened a small sandwich shop in Carson City that we truly enjoyed. So I also know what it's like to put your signature on and do a payroll check. So I know about that too, and how tough it is. We managed to survive with our business through the economic downturn in 2008. And I'm just greatly bothered that I hope our small businesses, as we come through this crisis of COVID-19, don't experience even far worse than what we had then. For 5.5 years, I've been your Ward 3 supervisor, working with the other board members to solve critical issues that have faced our city. And I recognize that not all issues satisfy everyone, but we must find solutions that benefit the majority of our community. I've attended nearly every single ribbon cutting that has occurred in the past 5.5 years, as I believe those that risk their money to open a business in this community deserve my support. It is just one of the tasks that the mayor performs. Over the years, I've worked and supported many nonprofit organizations in the community, such as FISH, the VFW Auxiliary, Salvation Army, Boys and Girls Club, and Capital City Arts, and many more. And I would be happy to answer your questions.
Great, thank you. Same thing, just so everybody knows, these I sent these 4 questions out. The other 2 candidates will get asked the same questions, maybe a couple more thrown in at the end, which we'll see how that goes. But when you're elected, how are you going to deal with the revenue shortfall due to the coronavirus? And we know they've been talking some cuts now. What's next? What next cuts? What are the next round of cuts are we going to be doing?
Well, I'd like to start off, in case there's people on the phone that are on this Zoom meeting that are not aware of what we've already done. So the first thing we did is we froze all the vacant positions. We delayed all the construction projects that were not started yet. And we reduced our capital expenditures by $6 million. If that's not enough, as your question asks, then our next step is to, I can't help myself, you guys, I'm an accountant, so I don't want to apologize, but I'm going to have to make a spreadsheet. And what you're going to see is you make one column of all of your mandatory expenditures, and then you make another column of what I consider your discretionary expenditures. So your mandatories are things like a utility bill, salts or chemicals that you need for your water treatment. Those would be mandatory versus discretionary. Then we'll have a public hearing and invite each and every one of you to comment, write in, email, not sure, again, if we're open to get comments, but we'll prioritize those expenditures. And then whether we like it or not, we begin the reduction process until we meet the projected goal. That's really what you do. You have to weigh each and every decision, the pro and the con of it, and where it falls in the ranking against all the other expenditures. And it's a process. I did it in 2008. We had an economic downturn. We received letters and notices from the governor's office telling us we had to reduce our budgets by 20%, and we had 2 weeks to formulate the plan and to do it. I was successful. I worked at the Department of Corrections, and we put our plan together and implemented it. So I'm tried and true. I've done this before. I'm not going to tell you it's easy or enjoyable, because just like we were talking a little bit earlier, a library to many people in the community would be a very high priority. but that has to be weighed against keeping a fire department open. So those are the types of discussions and hard facts that we'll have to go through to make the decision. That's it.
How do you feel about the economic development to build and support local businesses and visitors to Carson City?
So right now, that's really not at the top of my thought processes. I am really worried about maintaining the businesses that we even have right now in our community. I just don't know what we're going to do to help them get past this and to get open and to survive. So I'm considering looking and working with a group of them to find out if there are any regulations or rules that we have that are impeding them, that even if we just relaxed them for 3 to 6 months, would it help them come back? But I do want to answer your question in general. I certainly understand the Republican platform, and I'm happy to tell you that I probably fit it close. Under normal circumstances, I like economic development that reaches across the city and across the businesses, not for a specific one. So what I mean by that is I like to fix the roads, the sidewalks, the lighting, extend the utilities so they can hook up to water and sewer. Those, to me, I think benefit the community, the visitors, and the businesses, but I don't have to worry if the business doesn't survive. I don't lose the value that I put into the infrastructure. We use, in Carson City, a redevelopment fund to accomplish our economic development. And I am currently the chair of the redevelopment authority. And I have to say, I'm very pleased that we as a board have moved in this direction of doing infrastructure projects.
How do you want to make an impact or difference while serving the Carson City residents?
So I'm going to say that I think if you look over my history as a city supervisor, you're going to know that I have already had a significant impact on the city finances. I've worked very, very hard from the day that I took office to change the financial policies in Carson City. And we did indeed do so. We changed our financial policies to indicate that we would have a savings account of 16% or 2 months of cash on hand. So I've already had that impact. I also worked to create a fund in the city to save up money to do these infrastructure projects. That is very important to me, and I have reserve part of your property tax dollars and to protect them and put them in the infrastructure so that we have money to do the roof repair. As I said, I supported the library roof repair, which we got out of that account. I also worked on the downtown extended stay motels. I had done a class at the high school for the government class there, and I had asked the students kind of like this question, right? If I could do something for you, what do you see as the young kids in our community? What should I do? And it literally broke my heart that a student said, could you get me hot water where I live? And I thought, what? What do you mean? Well, she lived in an extended stay motel, and she told me that she couldn't tell the manager about the hot water or complain because they would be kicked out, and then her and her little sister would have nowhere to live. So I took that task on and said, no way, we're going to do inspections now. And so we have a task force that goes and does inspections to make sure that the basic living requirements are in our extended stay motels. And I have to say, I want to thank those motel owners too, because they're trying to meet us with that. And I know there's a lot of issues and a lot of people don't take care of their rooms and they get a lot of damage, but we're really working a good program with that to meet the basic living requirements. I also, let's hope here, chaired the community task force to reopen the gun range. And I would have been doing a ribbon cutting on Saturday with all of you, I am positive, because it's done and ready to be opened again. So as soon as this COVID situation allows, I'm going to have as big a scissors as I can find to do that ribbon cutting. So I think that I will, I don't know, I'll just keep continuing to tackle every issue as I always have been taught. You confront and resolve every issue at the lowest level possible. And I think that's the impact that I have and the difference that I make, is that anyone can call me. It does not matter the issue. And I try to take care of it, again, as simply and quickly as possible. And so that's it.
My next question, you get to be a little dreamer. You heard me ask Ron last night. He kind of put some limits on it. But I'll ask you, if you could spend all the money you could, all the time you could, what would be your do anything? What would be your signature project for the city?
Okay, so y'all ready? I know you have the answer. So I know I hear the laughs already because you all know the answer. Open the Ormsby House, right? But let me say, all kidding aside, I do want the Ormsby House to open, but I really think an issue that is near and dear to me, and if I could just wave my magical wand, is I want to deal with the homeless issue, because I want to treat them with respect, but I also think that the businesses in the community deserve a healthy environment. And so I don't want to see us turn into a mini San Francisco. So if I could just wave the magic wand, that's really something I want to tackle.
Okay, thanks, Lori. Scott, is there some questions up on chat?
Yeah, if you were mayor today, would you lead an effort to reopen Carson City's small businesses using common sense restrictions such as social distancing, even if these run contrary to the governor's wishes?
So I get to cheat because I am privy to information in advance. So I think we're going to have a meeting potentially on Friday as an emergency meeting to discuss what we want to do as our opening plan. One of the things, as you know, that President Trump put out was, all the governmental entities need a plan, and you have to have a day ready when you see your testing requirements being met. So I think you're going to see that Carson City is going to work starting Friday with what our 14-day plan is. Okay, we hit day 14 that our test results have indicated under the president's directives that we can begin opening. And so I don't want to say we're going to go against what the governor's directives are, because I believe he's also going to be shifting and allowing the local governments to start putting their plans together.
Could you please share your thoughts on Title 17.10 application by developers to subvert existing zoning of lot sizes to the center of existing neighborhoods?
So that question assumes it's to subvert. So let me answer it differently. We have two sections of our code, Title 17 and Title 18. Under the current rules of the game, a developer of a piece of property selects the title that they want to develop the land. So they select Title 17 or Title 18. The question really is, would I support, or I hope that the question was, would I support any changes to Title 17? And that title was put in place to allow people to trade lot sizes for more green spaces. As you know, in all planning and things, codes change and evolve over time. And sometimes 10 years ago, this was the hot new thing. And today, this is the hot new thing. And so do I think that all of our code, which I didn't say that earlier, but that's another thing that I'm been a proponent of, and is one of my signature pieces, is having a rewrite for all of our codes, because I think they're all old and should have a refresh on them. And so we have an attorney in our DA's office that is tasked with these rewrites, and they are working on Title 17 and 18 is the primary title that they're working on right now.
Okay, you voted against the diesel fuel tax correctly, I think, which is going to amount to not much more than a drop in the lake that is in the road fund deficit. What specific plans do you have as mayor to address the road fund deficit?
That is a large question, and you are correct. I did vote no because the residents of Carson City voted no on a gas tax increase. And so when you have a vote, I have the answer because you all told me the answer, so I voted no. The diesel tax is estimated to create about $400,000, which whoever wrote the question is correct. That means I can do a little less than a half a mile because it's about $1 million a mile. That the question really becomes on roads, whether or not it's such a high priority that you want me to, one, I can put a ballot measure back on the ballot and ask all of you, are the roads bad enough yet that you want me to, that you want to have a tax increase? Two, do you want me to kind of go through the exercise I talked about earlier, where we literally cut everything else in the budget that we can because roads are of such a high priority? I'm not actually convinced that the Carson City roads are in such horrific shape. When I go all around this country, I don't think we're unique. And so we fight very hard to get grants. I want to tell you all that I spent my own money and went to Washington, D.C., and I was very fortunate that President Trump invited me to a Nevada elected officials group meeting, and we were given an opportunity to meet with all of his secretaries and undersecretaries and to be able to talk to them about issues that we thought were important to our own communities, which was wonderful. We got their personal cell phone numbers to call them and say, if you're not getting results from a federal agency that Carson City needs an answer to, here's my direct cell phone number. And so I want to tell you, Mayor Kroll went with me on this trip, and we lobbied hard to get the Tiger Grant. $7.6 million we brought back and brought home to Carson City to work on our roads. And so I say that you have to aggressively look for every grant that you can get. So there's no magic answer. You either cut expenditures or raise fees or go after more grants.
So as a couple of follow-up questions, what about redirecting funds from gateway and beauty projects and focus on existing roads?
So thank you for that question, whoever asked that, because one of the most difficult things for me, or I think official to explain to people, is that we have funding sources and they are targeted. And so while the assumption is we're doing, like you said, for instance, the Gateway project, or we're doing South Carson Street, or it's a beautification project, those are grant funded or specific targeted dollars that I could not cancel that project and take that money and go put it on a local road. And so I really appreciate that question, because often And I get how difficult it is for the public to not say, Lori, you have a $160 million budget. Why can't you just move $15 million and fix our roads? Well, I cannot take the money out of the water fund and go fix the roads. I can't take it out of the sewer fund. I can't do it. It's against the law. And so thank you for that question.
And then another question, then why are we not going after direct infrastructure grants?
I think that if there's a grant out there and we know about it, we are going after it. And if anyone knows of a grant that you don't think we're applying for, please email it to me. Send me the details on the grant and we will get on it.
Okay. A rather long question. Your platform talks to quality of life and safety, current growth plans impact existing neighborhoods, many times with increased traffic, speeding, etc. How would you address citizens' concerns regarding these negative impacts on quality of life and safety? For instance, the upcoming development of the former vintage property will negatively impact the surrounding neighborhoods.
So I'm going to say that it does not matter the development. I don't think it's specific to the Anderson Ranch project. I think that if I lived in my home and I was fortunate enough that the lot next to me has been vacant and I've had a beautiful view for 25 years, that I'm very fortunate. But the property is owned by somebody and they're going to build on it. No matter what, it is a negative impact to the next door neighbor. So it doesn't, to me, I don't know a project in the community that's not a negative impact to someone. So what you have to do is determine if the negative impact can be mitigated, if at all possible. And so, for instance, on the Vintage project, one of the mitigations in the traffic, that was, I think I heard that in the question, was for me, then you have to, we had people that wanted to not have roads punched through. They said, oh, don't pick me. I've lived on this little cul-de-sac or these 4 houses for many, many years. And it's like, no, we're going to have to punch that road through for the betterment of the traffic flow for the whole community, for that project and the neighborhood. It's tough because, like I said, no one wants something new next to them. I just have not had anybody calling me up and saying, please put this project next to me. Doesn't matter the project. But also in that discussion we had earlier about Title 17 and 18, those are the opportunities when we go through those updates and rewrites for you as the community to let us know what things you don't want us to mitigate. That at this level or this issue, it's a no. And you'll have to help us set that priority as a community as a whole.
And then another question, what do you see as the future of Carson City's open space program? Would you support using program funds to continue purchasing additional properties?
So the open space fund is segregated into 3 different portions. There, again, that's one of those dedicated funding sources that we talked about earlier, but it is even more dedicated in that it's split with a 40-20-20. You know, it has a funding formula in it. And so right now, I might be wrong, we have, I think, right around $1.5 million for the purchase of additional open space. We as a Board of Supervisors have indicated that our priority is to not purchase more open space other than something that gives us connectivity. So to finish a trail or to connect to trails, that we're no longer going to go purchase an independent piece that just sits off by itself like a sidewalk to nowhere. So yes, I support the connectivity that lets us finish any trails within the open space dollars.
And a couple of clarifying questions regarding the meeting you possibly might be having on Friday regarding the COVID situation. Is that going to be an open meeting, or can people submit questions, or,
Absolutely an open meeting. I'm sorry that I don't know the detail yet. I had just taken the phone call about 4 o'clock to see what time on Friday I could attend an emergency meeting. But absolutely, I'm telling you all right now, send me anything. You know, I am a wide open book to your ideas. I talked to a lady today that said, Lori, the restaurants aren't going to be able to open with their full table service. You know, that's never going to happen for a long while. What can we do to change maybe our rules on outdoor dining so that we can relax a little bit of our rules, and what can we do on that? So I invite each and every one of you, please email me. You can email me at my city site for that, which is lbagwell@carson.org, or you can use my Lori Bagwell at charter.net, and I will share your thoughts and ideas with all the other members of the board.
Great. Perfect. Thanks, Paul. Back to you, Paul.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple questions that we asked last night of the Ron, just to get your thoughts about it. You touched on one of them a little bit, so but I just want to hear the big answer. As we drive around town, of course, we see houses going up everywhere. Every lot's getting filled up. Even where I live, people are filling all the lots up there. When is enough enough? When are we getting filled up here in the valley?
So we have, contrary to some people's belief factors, Carson City has a plan for everything, you guys. So we have strategic plans that talk about 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. One of the plans that we have is that we know the build out for Carson City, it's 80,000-ish people. And one of the neat new things we implemented this last year is we are now able to take every vacant parcel in Carson City. And so what we've done is assigned virtual water rights. We're getting good at this virtual stuff, but we've assigned virtual water rights to each of those parcels based on its zoning. And so now every time a building permit comes in, we're able to just update that model to determine, do we have enough water? Yes or no? Yes or no? So we have a great planning tool that we use for that. And so what happens is we don't exceed the water with a 15% cushion. And those are even state regulations and guidelines that let you even do your planning. You have to have capacity. Well, you can only go to capacity of 85%. And so that's really another issue on the Quill water plant. I've been a huge proponent. We have water rights in the Marlette that we are not utilizing right now because it has too much algae. And so we can't cure it with our treatment because we can't get it to that level in our Quill plant. So we have an update to the Quill water plant that's coming up. And we will then be able to process all that water, because I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but Truckee Meadows Water Authority, they wanted to make a deal with the state to take that water from us. So I'm pretty adamant that I'm going to protect our water rights to make sure we have water for 50 years. So that's the process that we use. And we have a 3% growth ordinance. And we only issue about 600 building permits a year. And we don't roll over unused permits because we want to, again, keep it really tight to make sure that we have the water that we need to support our community.
Yeah, and just so kind of everybody knows, for years and years and years, there was hardly any building permits in Carson City. I mean, 20, 30 building permits, and it just, this last couple of years, it's been going crazy. So, but it is starting. My wife always yells at me, get them out, You know what I mean? We're too big as it is. Let's slow it down a little bit. My next question is, as we drive around town, we see a lot of commercial properties empty or businesses closing down. I mean, you can do the list just down Carson Street from Kmart to, as you mentioned earlier, Walmart, or no, oh, yes, Walmart that used to be here,
Ormsby House.
Ormsby House. What's your thoughts on how to, because it always seems so awkward in Carson that our commercial real estate looks really flat or dying, but as a residential real estate is just going bonkers. So could you kind of talk about your thoughts on that?
Kind of goes to the free market discussion, right? As good, solid Republicans, that's the issue with commercial. You see more and more going to, and I think it's going to get worse now that we've had the COVID. I can't tell you how many friends of mine have said, oh my gosh, I've got this Instacart that I'm ordering my groceries and they're coming to my house now. Oh boy, they're kind of liking it. And they said, I might not ever go back to a grocery store. I'm like, uh-oh. So I think that, again, the times change. So it's, I think, going to get harder and harder for, I don't know, I want to separate commercial meaning manufacturing versus commercial meaning retail. So I agree with you that retail is more and more difficult, and it's really going to be up to the public in Carson City to support their local businesses. Don't go online and buy from Amazon if you can go, to the Carson Mall and buy it in one of the stores there, or you go to Lowe's. Don't order online when it's not a local store. I'm afraid that I don't really have I don't have a control over that, because I think the market is what drives that.
Scott, did we have any more questions before
a couple more, and we've got time. As a former supervisor, you may be viewed as one of the good old guys or gals network. While experience and networking are important, how might you break and establish your leadership role?
I think we went through that a little bit earlier, and I was able to prove, so I'll go through an example of one. And it's a touchy subject, but I will show you what leadership is all about. So we had recreational marijuana came up as a discussion item at the Board of Supervisors, and the vote was 3-2. I voted no because the taxpayers of Carson City voted no. And I think I discussed earlier that I don't understand when you have a ballot measure and the people tell you what they want. I don't understand. If I don't have a ballot, you're stuck with my answer. But I wasn't successful to accomplish that. So the next round became, what are the rules of the game and what are we going to allow in Carson City? So I was successful in negotiating that the recreational marijuana had to hang their shingles up at the existing medical marijuana locations, because I did not want a proliferation of marijuana licensees. We also had 4 licenses that were allowed for Carson City, and I kept it at the 2. And again, they had to be co-located. So I don't think it's a matter of being a good old boy. I think it's something different. I think that my fellow board members respect me. They know they can trust my word, and that I deal from good faith, and that's really what it's about, is respecting one another and saying, Lori really believes in this, or Stacy really believes in this, or John does, and that they're coming at it from a good place in their heart, that they think they're doing right by Carson City. And so I don't think it's a good old boy. I think we all bring our own biases to the table, and it's a matter of having mutual respect for one another, again, to get done what you can. And I think I've proven that. So I think my leadership skills are are there, and you can go back and watch me in action, go to the board meetings. I ran the meeting 4 times as the mayor pro tem. I think you're going to see I lead with distinction and humility because they're both necessary.
Okay. About code enforcements with commercial vehicles regularly being parked in residential areas and multiple unregistered cars being parked in driveways and front yards. Why has this been allowed to go on for so long, if not months, if not years?
Which type of vehicles? I'm
Just
sorry,
commercial vehicles, really? That's what unregistered cars, multiple cars. I don't know, apparently it's a code
big issue. No, so it's a big issue. We have 2 code enforcement employees to do all the misdemeanor codes, like you're saying, to go around this community. And so for the most part, that is done by complaint. So a person sends in a complaint to the code enforcement, and then code enforcement goes and tries to deal with that issue. Super honest, right? It's how important is the community as a whole when we do that balancing test that we talked about earlier. So I think I'd have to hire 20 code enforcement people to go around and write tickets all the time and haul these vehicles off. I wish that people would just comply, but the person that wrote that question is accurate. They just don't. And so if they don't know, they should send an email to code enforcement at carson.org and let them know the address and stuff. And they will go out there and deal with the particular vehicles that you see or that they are concerned about.
Great. And a final question. At some point, we will reach the build out of 80,000 in population. Since construction work will diminish, what will be our economic basis to replace construction?
Wow, I need my magic wand back. It's going to be the Ormsby House. You guys have to admit that was pretty good that I came up with on a moment's notice, right? But yeah, I don't know. More manufacturing. If we could expand places like ClickBond. I heard something that, I think it was that Dave Williams said earlier. Maybe we can expand our manufacturing area to do, I think he said drugs, pharmaceuticals or whatever that are currently being done in China. That's something maybe we could take a look at. I just don't have anything else immediately on the horizon.
So in closing.
Well, just one more question.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've answered this or not, but relating to failing city infrastructure, what is your priority for replacing our park system amenities, playgrounds, asphalt, trails?
That is another committee that I serve on is the Parks and Rec Committee. I successfully worked with the other members of that commission to prioritize and to rank. So prior to my serving on that board, they used to submit, I'm not kidding when I tell you this, guys, pages and pages, thousands of items in a capital request, thousands of items. And I finally worked with that board to say, we really need to set 2 or 3 priorities. You can't hand a board of supervisors a list of 1,000 items and say, this is it. This is what we need for the Parks and Recreation Department. So one of the things we did, and I was successful in getting the Board of Supervisors to adopt this, is to reserve $300,000 a year to the Playground Replacement Fund. And so the first one that I was successful and very happy is if you go to Roscold Park, you'll see our first playground replacement in, 20 years. And so I'm going to be super honest. I don't know that I can hold on to that, obviously, in this next year. I think that a playground replacement might not make that priority cut, but it's certainly right back where I'll go. One of the things we've done is an asset management program, and we have funded where we're almost done with Parks and Recreation because they were the first test case, that we have tagged every single piece of infrastructure and put a useful life on it so that we can begin picking again the right item to prioritize. So if this thing is going to fail because it's at the end of its useful life, replace it before you replace another item. So having good data is going to help us make good decisions, but I am in support of trying to maintain that infrastructure.
Okay.
Back to me now.
Yep, go ahead.
So in closing, Lori, three
Okay.
reasons why I should vote for you.
So I am the most qualified candidate to lead us through this next year of recovery and beyond. I'm a proven leader. I have chaired and served on numerous committees at various levels, including acting as the mayor pro tem 4 times during the last year. I'm prepared to lead and serve on day one. I am accessible and transparent. Everyone has the right to redress their government. Every voice matters, and I am willing to speak with everyone, even when I know they are unhappy with the decision that I or the city has made. And other closing, I want to say that I would really appreciate your vote. I think it's important that I ask you for it, and I hope that you realize I have earned it.
All right, thank you.
I've opened the floor, Paul, in terms of people
Okay.
to be unmuted. So it looks like Day, you unmuted yourself. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a facetious question.
Uh-oh.
When do you sleep, Lori?
Thank you, Day. Ask my husband and he will tell you that he cannot believe that I take phone calls at 10 o'clock at night. I know that people work different hours. I know people can't come to board meetings necessarily. And with all of my heart, I tell you, I see that Christy Scott is on this. She will tell you, I take the calls no matter what, even if it's somebody that's not happy about something. I will take the call and I will try. I cannot always solve it. I can't always give you what you're looking for, but I never shy away from it.
Hey, so you might take that phone call at 10 o'clock at night, but what time do you hang up from that phone call?
Now, be quiet, Maurice. I might even help people till 2 in the morning if necessary.
Okay,
It matters.
so
People matter.
just so we all know, this kind of finishes our official conversation. So if you want to chit chat with Lori, please feel free. We'll stay on here as long as we need to. And if you want Day still on, so if you want to ask him a question, please
I'm here.
ask him.
Well, thank you for
And before we
moderating.
close, one more. I got to do plug for tomorrow night. Maurice White will be up first for Ward 2 supervisor, and then Nathan Kilgore will be up, who wants to talk, or he's running for mayor. Okay, that will be tomorrow night's excitement. But like I said, you can go ahead and talk amongst yourselves, but our official conference is ended. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Day.
Thank you, Lori.
Oh, thank you, guys. And if anybody has any ideas on, may I ask you all, just truly, if I could pick one business to open, and Christy doesn't get to answer because I already put it on the list, the range. I told you I'm going to get big scissors and I'm going to go out there and cut it. But so that's already on the list. But what would you guys like me to open? You need to tell me, what in this community do you think you truly need?
Ormsby House.
All right, Christy, I
Ormsby
had to use the spray. I agree. My husband does too, because now I might have to use the shears on him, and that's dangerous.
Couldn't
My
help
wife
it.
cut my hair.
Anybody have an idea? If I were to really pick something, what do you want me to go after?
Nail salons.
Okay.
Get that Ormsby House open. I need a pedicure.
Restaurants. Restaurants.
Yes.
Restaurants? May I ask the question on the restaurant? Do you mean the interior dining, or do you like the idea of letting them put exterior tables out? Do you
Well,
think that
if-
people won't, you like the idea of like I said, maybe a 6-month moratorium or something that I
Lori,
can add to outdoor tables?
Lori, we've been using curbside and delivery to our favorite restaurants, and I think one of the best things about Carson City is that with the downtown redevelopment, we've really had a vibrant kind of up and coming downtown. So it's very sad to see, these restaurants going, starting to go under. So I would support, space, if they could open economically with less patrons inside or outside, or however you had to do it, something that used common sense. I think it would really help our community.
So I was thinking on one idea, and any idea you have, of course, there's a trade-off, but to have the space for those restaurants to be able to accomplish this. Right now we have those parking pullouts where people can put 2 cars in there. I was thinking, and it's just an idea, that you could go ahead and walk a little bit, and that's where I could gain that space for them being able to put put a plywood down there or whatever and make a cute, just 2 tables or 3 tables distance 6 feet apart, because I need the space to do the social distancing. Do you guys think people would be okay with giving up that parking for a few months to help our restaurants get back in? Can I see a thumbs up? I would love it. Yes. You guys like that? I think it'd be okay. And then we go back to the parking later. Okay.
So actually, Lori, if you remember, that was quite a conversation when they did the downtown project, that those parking areas could be utilized with, safe, substantial structures, but temporary arrangements to make patio dining out there. And then as the community grew and it got squeezed out, then that would, possibility with it being temporary structures, they could be removed. So I still stand on, I don't know how happy that dinner experience is going to be when that guy with his hot rod Cummins diesel buries you in mosquito smoke. But if that's what you're up for, have at it.
What about having something kind of fun? Again, I'm thinking outside the box, but I don't know any other way we're going to get through this. I thought about even saying Carson Street is closed from 6 to 9 for outdoor dining. Just what you're talking about for that. We have to save those businesses, and I know we're all going to have to do something to help that get accomplished. Again, it's a wild thought. Oh, I see thumbs again, that we realize we truly are in this together, and
So
we're going to have to all work together.
I think to make that kind of a thing work, though, Lori, you have all those one-way streets that are going backwards. I think you should move the dining to the side streets. Of course, that's, like a major issue for something like, what's that Indian store next to Garibaldi's? They're right in the middle of the block. So how would they get over to the side street? But see, that particular block is one-way stuff. And so you'd either have to turn the one way around, or there's some traffic management would have to be really thought out so that you didn't create a malfunction in there trying to do that.
I'm just throwing out ideas and asking all of you, again, email me. No idea is too wild, right? Because we can't address it if no one comes up with any ideas. So, and I'm not pretending to have all the answers. I need your guys' help. So help me and help those businesses.
Lori,
Yes?
is the board actively trying to get people to buy the OH?
Do I actively support?
Is anybody on the board trying to stimulate interest in the OH?
I can assure you that I have I'll bet you I have 100 hours in meetings with different potential buyers for that project. And the mayor and I probably met for 10 hours with the last potential buyer. And I wish we could have made that happen, but it kind of goes in just opening it to open it and letting them violate every single rule that we have. I couldn't do it, you guys. I just couldn't do it. It wasn't the right, it just wasn't the right project. And he thought that the city should just grant him a permit. You want this so bad, just let me have the permit. And it's like, I can't have oxygen in the rooms without the fire department verifying that that's safe. I can't do it. So yes, I promise you that I was, I'm working on another deal, and it's going to take 3 parties to get it done, but I am willing to try everything I can. So who knows? I may come up with
that attitude by a purchaser that you need this project so bad and you want it so bad, just give me whatever I want. That's the whole nonsense idea of giving people like Teslas and the Raiders tax incentives. Oh, we want you so bad, we'll just bend over and give you everything. Yes. No.
No, I don't think we should, but I'm just wondering what seems to be the big reason that investors don't want to come into it.
the size. So I can tell you a few things about it. One, remember that the Ormsby House was really set up as a gaming establishment, and gaming in Carson City does not pencil. To add another huge 200,000 square feet of gaming, it simply, it won't pencil. So then you look at that square footage and say, oh my goodness, what business can pencil? Just what I heard, sorry, I don't know who asked the question, but said, look at all the empty commercial. That's the problem with the Ormsby House. It does not pencil because they're going to have to put in a lot of investment to complete the inside to whatever the new function is. So if I need, 7 to 20 million on the inside, and I have to buy 10 to 20 million on the outside, it just doesn't pencil. So it's really going to take some group efforts and somebody that truly has a vision for what that can be. I wanted to make it, I'd love to see it become a piece and a fixture of Western Nevada College. I'd like to see the rooms turned into dorms. I'd like to see a nursing program full-time that's on one floor. I mean, I can really come up with it, but it's going to take, and I thought about then the bottom floor could be leased out maybe to a second or third party that I'm talking with and say, hey, they could have the top floors, you could have the bottom floor. So I think that's the only way we're going to get the Ormsby House done, is to have partnerships.
Hey, Lori,
Yes.
do you think the day will come where for the Ormsby House, we just got to tear it down and start over?
Oh, no.
Joan, I'm with you. I don't want to say it's a no, Terry, because at some point there is a reality. At some point, it's not what I want. It's iconic. It's the middle of the downtown. But it's not open, and it's big and it's huge. I don't want it for the family. I don't want that for the community. But Terry, there's always that possibility. It's just like the bar. How do you guys like Bill Miles and the Business Alliance redoing the Bake Saloon? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
But that's what I meant by it's going to take somebody that loves this, right? Because that wasn't cost beneficial. You guys do realize that the expense on that, but again, it was smaller. So they were willing to invest and know that it
Yeah.
might not necessarily be a great pencil, but it was iconic and they could help the community. And so I really appreciate people like Bill Miles that live here and love his community and says, look, I want to fix that.
But they can also leverage it into revenue every time the legislature's in town.
Oh, absolutely.
And the lobbyists and everybody else that's associated with the legislature.
But it's not that big. I want to let you all know I have definitely toured and done some stuff in that one, and it's not big. But not bars weren't that big in the 50 years ago. They weren't that big. So
Well, the thing is, though, with whoever was just saying they're going to leverage it for money during the legislature, well, that's kind of what capitalism is. If they're willing to put out the bucks and not have the big bucks come back, that's their private money. Have at it. Have
Well,
a great day.
it's 6 months out of 24, right?
Right.
So we got to make that 6 months work. Anyway, I think you're all going to love it. I've seen the interior design. I think you're going to have a good time with it. I think it's going to become, I don't know, one of those little hot spots like you see communities that have the key tree or the shoe tree or the whatever. I think that we're going to be the Bank Saloon is going to be a little iconic hot spot in Carson.
As long as it's not the Bates Motel across the street.
Oh, boy. That was good. That was good, Christy.
We could even manufacture a couple of ghosts in there and have paranormal tours like we're going to do out at the prison.
When I worked at the Department of Corrections, there was a group that wanted to come in and do paranormal. I'll tell you guys a little inside joke that happened to me my very first night working at the Department of Corrections. And already my first day I was working, it's 8 o'clock at night and I'm walking down a hallway and I get whacked on the back of the head. And everybody had told me there were ghosts out there. And I have to admit, I was like, what in the world is going on here? Well, I'm happy to tell you it wasn't a ghost. It was a bat. And I still stayed working there.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
oh, thank you.
yeah,
Long as it wasn't a Chinese bat.
it wasn't. I don't know, actually. Yeah, that's good.
Hey, Lori, policy question.
Yes?
I know the idea has been floated to add like a road maintenance fee, much like we have, stormwater and sewer and, things like that. Are you supportive of that, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't have the, I'm going to need the support of the community before I'm going to go and add a $500 a year assessment to the property. Because I think earlier I was very honest with all of you. You're going to have to help me decide the priority of your roads. It is a huge shortfall, but again, part of it is what level do we really have to, oh, that reminds me, you guys. One of the things we did in RTC, I serve on that committee too. I bet you're going to ask me, how come I'm on all these committees? Because I love learning. But one of the things we did 2 years ago to make sure that the road tax dollars were fairly distributed in our community is we made transportation districts. So we have 5 transportation districts. And so we go through each year, and this year the money is for that transportation district. Then the next year it rotates to the next. And so I think that that's one of the ways we're trying to be fair to make sure that each of the community sub-communities in Carson City get their roads treated. So you're going to all have to help me to say, do you want to pay more or do you think the roads are good enough? I don't know. This is so much fun. I miss knocking on doors and talking to people.
Is the gas tax still going or not? That was for the freeway. Where is
That's
that?
still in place. The nickel, you mean?
Yeah.
The nickel gas tax, that's still in place. We owe the state of Nevada $7-ish million because 20 years ago, the powers to be made a deal to get a freeway. The state has not lived up to its end of the bargain, and therefore, until they do the final overpass, we don't owe that dollar. And looking at things right now, I'm going to bet that's going to be kicked down the road another 20 years.
Is interest accruing on the 7 mil?
No, it's frozen.
How much a difference did it make in the budget not to put in that overpass?
$13 million was the overpass.
Right, 13 million for the state. Right.
Right.
Wow.
Mhm. Well, and they took the money. So I want to tell you all, we were supposed to get that, and they reprioritized it and moved it for the trick. That's what happened to our money.
So what could an assemblyman do so far as a bill draft?
You know, Day, it's a chicken or an egg, you guys, right? Because darn it, if you get it done and we get the overpass or interchange, sorry, wrong word, interchange there, then we owe them $7.6 million. So you could work in your bill draft to get us that and forgive that debt because they squelched for 20 years.
Well, and I think that's the way you try to work that out is that contract has had multiple amendments already.
Yes, it has.
And so I think my vision on that goes clear back to Washington, D.C. with our congressional contingency, working from back there out here to the legislature and then down to Carson City and renegotiate that contract so it's more favorable to us. And, you know, if they didn't hold up their end of the deal, then we should get a relief of some nature.
Well, they're going to say they can charge us interest and we haven't paid back our share. And they, again, you're right. Everything's a negotiation.
That's what the negotiation table's for, you know?
Right.
Lori, where did you say that money went?
It went to the trick for the freeway, for the roundabout and exchange out there.
USA Highway.
Yeah. Have I got y'all? I hope I didn't overwhelm you with too much, but I love this city. I love being your representative on the board. And again, I would be so honored to represent you as your mayor.